be really nice to be like, I do own Clerks. I don't own Clerks anymore. I made it and sold it. I'm a sellout.
But that's so fucking weird. You don't own your own stuff.
That is the weirdest thing. It's your own fucking
so
thing.
Bizarre.
That's your thoughts.
But that's the game, man. Like, anybody that works for somebody else or you make something you sell it to them, that's the game. You want to remain a true artist, one that doesn't ever sell out. You can't ever sell your merchandise.
I don't want to get personal or anything, but do you make any money off of that movie?
Oh, Clerks?
Yeah.
Clerks, yes. Clerks, after many, many years, went into profit, which is kind of hysterical. But anyway, it's, Hollywood math being what it is, or no, I won't even say Hollywood math, industry math being what it is. It seemingly took a long time for that movie to enter into the black, but when it did, it entered like a freight train and has continued to earn for me over the years. So I made they paid me $227,000 for that movie up front. That was it. That was like the whole nut. And out of that 227, $100,000 of it was used to get the movie up to 35 millimeter specs. So when you go to the theater and see Clerks, or when you went to the theater back in the day and saw Clerks, you weren't seeing like the $27,575 movie. You were seeing $127,575 movie because they put in the sound mix. They had to blow it up from 16 millimeter to 35 millimeter. And the print costs were included in that. So
and that came out of your take?
That came out of the take, totally.
Jesus Christ. Motherfuckers.
But I do. But again, remember, this is 1994, and all I didn't even care. They could have said, like, look, we're going to give you this fucking condom full of a lot of wad, and here's $2.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I'll take it, man, as long as there's Miramax at the front of this movie. Like, that's all that mattered. And also, you got to remember, like, a year later, everything changed at Sundance. That's when people started overpaying for movies. So at Sundance 94, that was the first time anyone ever bought a movie at the festival proper. Sometimes people would buy movies in advance of the fest, and sometimes they'd buy movies after the festival.
Great timing, Kevin.
But they never bought movies at the festival. And John Pearson, the guy who repped our flick, he also repped a movie called Go Fish, and that was the very first film that ever sold right at Sundance. And it was also a scrappy black and white independent film, but it was about girls, more importantly, or more to the point, it was about lesbians. So that movie sold to Goldwyn first, and then like 3 days later, our movie was the second movie to ever sell at Sundance, and it sold to Miramax. Now, both of those movies, I think Go Fish, John probably got maybe $500,000 for, $300,000 to $500,000 for, which was huge for a movie like that.
Yeah.
Ours, $227,000. I remember being at the restaurant, like we just had our final killer screening at Sundance. We didn't start. Our first two screenings were late in the first week of the festival, and the buzz just started building. At Sundance, it's easy to sell out. Everyone's like, I sold out at Sundance. It's every screening at Sundance sells out because the town is overridden with crowds and whatnot. So our first two screenings have been sold out, but there was no buzz for us going into that festival and no buzz for us at the top of the festival at all. It was when we got to our second two screenings that all of a sudden the press started writing about it and all this shit. So we have our last screening at the Egyptian, and it's a killer screening, and that's where Harvey Weinstein is. And then after the screening, we do a killer Q&A. It's just like, oh, my God, this is it. And for us, it was never going to get better than that. We were never going to sell the movie. Like, everyone had passed on the movie. The festival was the best it was ever going to be. And then somebody yanked on my coat, and they were just like, Harvey Weinstein is sitting across the street with John Pearson, wants to sit down and talk about selling the movie. So we went over there, and Harvey Weinstein's sitting there and talking about, we're going to take this movie, we're going to buy it, we're going to fucking put it on 1,000 fucking screens, we're going to put it in fucking multiplexes, put a fucking music soundtrack on, it's going to fucking blow it out. And me and Moshe were like, fuck, yeah, this dude's a monster. John Pearson was sitting there with us, and he says, look, the movie's proven it's not a pig in a poke, okay? It's, we're not saying, give us a mint for it, but it has a following. There is an audience for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Harvey was just like, look, I'll give you $200,000 for it. And John Pearson was like, they paid $27,000 to make it. And Harvey was like, $227,000. And so John was like, okay, give us a second. And we go over and talk to John Pearson. And he goes, look, man, I don't think you care about the money. I never got that impression. I was like, I don't give a shit about the money. I said, but still, that's fucking huge. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, for you at that time,
like,
fuck yeah.
$200,000 $127. Whose cock do I got to suck for that? But he was like, "This is Miramax. This is where you wanted it to be. This is the gold." I said, "Dude, take it." Like, I don't even know why we're in this conversation. So boom, we took it, and that was like, after the $100,000 that went away to blow the movie up to 35, left with 127,000. About 40 of it went to paying off the credit cards because the movie was $27,575, but all that interest and shit like that.
Yeah.
So it was about 40 off of that. So you take that out of that 127. Help me do the math, somebody. 127 less than 40. 40 less than 127 would be.
That would be
77, 87.
87,000.
And then I cut some checks for people involved. Like I paid my parents $10,000 because they had loaned me money. Scott's parents $10,000. That brings us down to what?
67.
67. I gave Scott, I think, did I give him $10,000? Yeah, I gave $10,000. It gives 57.
Oh boy, 57.
I gave the boys $3,000 apiece. That would be Brian, Jeff, and Jay. So what does that bring us to?
54.
54. The girls, they gave $1,000 apiece because they, they only worked but they only worked 2 days on the movie, 2 or 3 days.
Fuck them, Kevin. I know.
They're girls.
So what's that left with?
Around 50.
Yeah.
Around 50, and then out of that, I bought, the only thing I bought for myself, the thing I went absolutely apeshit with, was I bought a Dodge Neon. I didn't know shit about cars.
You fucking Jersey trash.
I'm like, I'm going to get me a pussy magnet car.
Dodge Neon.
So what did you do with the 48,000 you had left after that?
That was the crazy thing. It was a cheap car. I couldn't get my head around putting a lot of money into a new car. Like, I'd only owned used cars my whole life.
Yeah.
So, like, the idea of getting a new car, when somebody told me how much they were, I was just like, I don't want to pay that. It's a waste of money. So Dodge Neon, I think, was $16,000, and I was just like,
I could swing that.
That is decadent. That is just, that's me living like Hugh Hefner or Liberace, And I threw caution to the wind, and I bought that Dodge Neon. And the car was made of rubber, dude. Like, seriously, if you pulled into a spot and touched the parking sign, it dented in. It was just crazy, but that was it. So after it's 16,000 from 50, 30, essentially $34,000 is that was what I walked away from.
So Kevin, like, you didn't have to take care of the soundtrack rights.
No, that was all
the studio.
Like when Sony came in with the music deal, they were the ones that were like, "Look, we'll take care of all that. We love the movie. We got a bunch of music we'd like to put into that movie and own the soundtrack." And those deals are kind of like, they'll give, back in those days, they would give kind of a token fee or whatever to the studio distributor or whatever to be involved, but then they absorbed all the costs. And where they helped out a lot was, if you had a soundtrack, they were essentially paying for the music that you had in the movie, as long as it was the stuff from their label and whatnot.
Right.
So that kind of worked out for us. I mean, we didn't have that much music. If you watch the Sundance cut on that Clerks 10 DVD, there's not a lot of music. There's the Love Among Freaks song in the beginning and Berserker at one point and some incidental music. Okay. But nothing else. I mean, that came later on, that soundtrack stuff.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Kevin, my Twitter's blowing up. People want to know if I'm still in the movie.
Yeah, you're still in dicks, dude.
Cool. I lied, by the way. My Twitter's not blowing up.
Yeah.
It's just it's a very easy way to get through my own neediness.
The scene got a little shorter. Every scene got a little shorter. My current running time is 90 minutes.
Okay.
I think before release, we'll probably wind up going up by a few minutes. But right now we're at 90. But you're in there, hands down, and it's a far better handoff to you than we'd had before.
Oh, good.
It was just very, very high profile. It's good, man. You're in there. You're in there in a big way.